Okay, let's try and picture this. Finland. You think of the magic of the Arctic Circle, sure, but also maybe the warmth of a traditional sauna. Vast forests, dancing lights in the sky. It's a place often called, well, the happiest country on Earth.
Yeah.
And, maybe most famously, the official home of Santa Claus.
It really does paint a vivid picture, doesn't it? Instantly, you get those iconic images, the northern lights swirling against that dark, snowy backdrop, frozen lakes like mirrors, those deep green forests that seem to go on forever, and yeah, that classic image of Santa Claus in his village. But then right alongside all that, you have the very modern, sleek lines of Helsinki.
Absolutely. But, if we peel back those first images, what's the actual experience like when you're there? On the ground? Is it really just snow and silence, endless white? Or is there's, more to it? And maybe the big question for anyone thinking of going, how do you actually get around? How do you navigate that wilderness, which looks amazing but maybe a bit daunting, and the cities too, efficiently? These are the kinds of questions that really pushed us to do this deep dive today.
And that's exactly what we're aiming for. We're going to tackle those questions head on. We've got this really interesting stack of sources. You've given us travel guides, some personal notes, even analytical reports, a real mix. So our mission, basically, is to decode it all, to really dissect Finland layer by layer and pull out the insights that matter. Think of it as like your shortcut to being properly informed, getting you the knowledge you need to really know your trip, even before you've booked anything.
That's the plan. We're not just scratching the surface here or giving you a basic list. We're trying to pull out the most important, maybe sometimes surprising, bits of knowledge from all this material, give you some real depth. So over the next little while, we're going to kind of journey through Finland's regions, its experiences. We'll go from, the almost mystical Arctic up in Lapland, Santa, the Aurora, all that, down through the huge Lakeland area, the forests, and right down to the capital, Helsinki on the Baltic.
And while we do that, we'll be breaking down some absolutely crucial details, stuff the sources say is essential for planning, like what things really cost for different styles of travel. Because, let's face it, backpacking is very different from a luxury Northern Lights trip. We'll look at how far your money goes, we'll try to unravel the logistics, getting around this huge country, that's a big one. And of course, we'll share those insider tips, advice pulled straight from the sources, to help you make the absolute most of your time there.
Because Finland is, well, it's definitely one of Europe's most unique places. It offers something genuinely different.
Yeah.
And our goal isn't just to talk about the obvious allure, the beauty, the peace, the magic, yes, but also all those critical planning bits you need. Everything to navigate it well and have a really memorable and, let's be honest, efficiently planned trip. Right, let's get into it.
Absolutely. So maybe the best place to start is with the foundational things, the core characteristics that the sources keep bringing up about Finland. These are the things that really seem to shape the whole experience.
Okay, and the first one is a number that's almost hard to wrap your head around when you first hear it. Just the sheer amount of water. We hear land of 1,000 lakes, right? But the sources make it crystal clear. That's a massive understatement, like almost funny, the actual number. Over 188,000 lakes. Just think about that. 188,000.
It's truly staggering. It really is. And when you put that density of lakes together with the huge ancient forests covering over 70% of the country, especially up towards Lapland, well, what you get is just this incredible paradise for anyone who loves nature, that feeling of untouched wilderness, vast, quiet spaces. It offers a kind of serenity that's getting pretty rare these days.
Yeah, and you see that reflected straight away in the activities, right? Things that are just fundamental there. Summer, it's all about the lakes, kayaking, canoeing, paddleboarding, fishing, swimming. And hiking is huge year-round. The sources talk about foraging, too, picking wild berries and mushrooms. Blueberries, lingonberries, those special cloudberries up north, chanterelles. You can do this almost anywhere, even in places like Nuuksio National Park, which is amazingly just like a 45-minute train ride from Helsinki Center, or the Archipelago National Park, thousands of islands off the coast. You explore that by boat.
And that deep connection to nature, it's not just recreation, it's really embedded in the culture. And it's helped by something pretty unique, legally speaking, every man's right, or jokamiehen oikeudet in Finnish. This basic right, mentioned again and again in the sources, lets everyone, locals, visitors, anyone roam freely across almost any land. You can hike, pick berries and mushrooms, fish with a simple rod, even camp wild for a night or two, respectfully, of course, even in national parks, no matter who owns the land.
That is genuinely fascinating. This kind of built-in right to just access nature, wander around. It must change how you explore the country.
Yeah.
Speaking of inherent Finnish things, something else the sources really hammer home is the sauna. They stress this isn't just like a spa thing, it's much more profound.
Exactly. Spot on. The sauna is described less as an amenity, more like a fundamental way of life, a sort of sacred ritual, really ingrained for relaxation, cleansing, mental well-being. It's so central, the saying goes, and the sources cite this. There are literally more saunas in Finland than cars. It's a place for, well, physical sweating, obviously, but also mental decompression. And importantly, it's a social space, too, for chatting, bonding, even business meetings, apparently. You really have to embrace it if you visit. And they come in all sorts, traditional wood ones by a lake, electric ones in apartments, modern design saunas in Helsinki, even ice saunas. The process. Steam, sweat, and then the crucial bit, cooling off. Often a dip in a cold lake, the sea, or, yeah, rolling in the snow, depends where and when you are.
Okay, hold on. Embracing intense steam, getting super sweaty, and then willingly jumping into freezing water or snow, that sounds like it takes, well, a certain kind of inner strength. Resilience.
It absolutely does. And that leads us perfectly to another key Finnish concept the sources explain, Sisu. There's no perfect English word, but it's about grit, resilience, perseverance, determination. That stoic courage, especially when facing something that seems overwhelming. It's that quiet inner strength, that resolve to just keep going when things get tough. You can kind of see it historically, how they maintained independence, and you see it day to day, how they handle the long, dark winters or just the practical way of tackling problems. It's not about being loud or showy. It's this deep, quiet determination, woven right into the national character, it seems.
So it's not just about the beautiful but sometimes harsh environment. It's the spirit it creates in people. Nature, the sauna ritual, the Sisu idea. These really feel like foundational pieces. And then, of course, for a lot of people, especially families, there's the pure fairy tale element.
Ah, yes. Rovaniemi, the official home of Santa Claus, right there on the Arctic Circle. The sources describe this area as having this special, almost tangible magic, especially around Christmas, obviously, but really, anytime, if you like that whole Christmas enchantment thing, Santa Claus Village is presented as this, well, wonderfully whimsical place. You can actually meet Santa any day of the year. Literally cross the Arctic Circle line, get a certificate too, send postcards with the official Arctic Circle stamp from Santa's own post office, and do classic Lapland stuff like reindeer sleigh rides or husky sledding. It's where the fairy tale kind of comes alive.
And you mentioned crossing the Arctic Circle. That puts us firmly in Lapland, which isn't just Santa's territory. It's also the absolute prime spot for another incredible natural show mentioned constantly in the sources, the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights.
Exactly. That breathtaking light show in the sky. Finnish Lapland, so around Rovaniemi, yes, but also further north. Places like Levi, Saariselkä, Inari, these are consistently highlighted as some of the best, most accessible places anywhere to see them. The sources definitely recommend planning your trip between late September and March. That's when your probability is highest. Being above the Arctic Circle means those super long periods of darkness in winter, giving the lights plenty of time to potentially show up, assuming the sky's clear, of course.
And the sources get into the different ways you can try and see them. I mean, you could just find a dark spot away from town lights, especially if you're on a tighter budget and have a car. But joining guided tours seems highly recommended. To maximize your chances, get some insight.
Right. These tours take you out to the best viewing spots, often explain the science behind it. Sometimes they combine it with other things like snowshoeing at night or maybe a reindeer sleigh ride, all focused on hoping to spot the aurora.
And then there are those really unique places to stay designed specifically for aurora viewing, though they definitely cost a bit more.
Yeah, the sources highlight things like glass igloos or cabins with huge glass roofs. So you can lie there, warm in bed, and potentially watch the lights dancing right above you. It sounds unforgettable, but yeah, it's definitely in the luxury category.
Right. And important to remember the flip side, too. Winter brings the aurora and the dark polar night up north. But summer above the Arctic Circle, that brings the midnight sun. The sun just doesn't set for weeks.
Exactly. Endless daylight for exploring, hiking, fishing, whatever, just experiencing that strange energy of constant light. It's a completely different kind of magic. The sources describe it well. And it happens when southern Finland is in full swing with lake activities and city life.
So that gives us a good feel for the unique nature, the sort of mythic magic of Finland, especially Lapland. But as the sources also make really clear, Finland is also an incredibly modern, high-tech country.
It really is. That's a consistent point. Beyond the nature and tradition, Finland's a major hub for modern design, innovation, a very progressive approach to urban living, especially in Helsinki. The cities, even though they're often close to nature, they blend the sleek, functional architecture with really accessible public spaces. It reflects that practical, no-nonsense, but still aesthetically pleasing approach that seems to come from that Sisu idea and efficiency.
And you see that mix perfectly in Helsinki itself. It's described as this beautiful capital built on islands and peninsulas in the Baltic Sea.
One point the sources make, which is maybe a bonus, is that while it's a capital, it doesn't feel quite as swamped with huge tourist crowds as some other big European cities.
Must-visit spots they highlight include Senate Square, with its striking neoclassical buildings, especially the big white Helsinki Cathedral, and Suomenlinna Sea Fortress, that UNESCO site on islands, just a short ferry right away. It's a fascinating mix of history, parks, even places where people live.
The Market Square, Kapatori, right on the harbor, that gets recommended a lot. It's vibrant, you can try local food from stalls, look at handicrafts. And for that modern side, the design district downtown is packed with boutiques, galleries, museums showcasing Finland's famous design heritage, Marimekko, Aalto furniture, that kind of thing.
Even the sauna experience in the city can be modern. Places like lowly Helsinki get mentioned, stunning public saunas, modern architecture right on the waterfront, blending the old ritual with new design and sea views.
That ability to just seamlessly blend the traditional, almost ancient stuff with cutting-edge modern life really seems to capture Finland's unique balance. And the sources keep bringing up another defining thing about the country: its reputation for happiness, cleanliness, and safety.
Yeah. It's not just mentioned occasionally. Finland is consistently ranked right at the top globally for happiness year after year. The sources suggest it's a mix of things we've touched on: strong social support, trust in government and each other, work-life balance, and that deep connection to nature.
Definitely. Visiting often gives you this undeniable sense of peace, safety, a genuinely high quality of life. The air feels cleaner, the environment's incredibly well looked after, and maybe most practically for travelers, the tap water is explicitly mentioned as being excellent quality. Safe to drink everywhere, they actually encourage it.
That focus on quality of life, trust, looking after the environment, it must contribute hugely to that feeling of calm and safety. Okay, so we've covered nature, seasons, culture sauna, Sisu cities, modern edge.
Yeah.
What about the food? The sources mention some must-try things.
The big theme for Finnish food, based on the sources, seems to be a strong focus on fresh, natural, often wild ingredients. Stuff sourced directly from those lakes and forests we talked about. The style is described as, well, simple, wholesome, comforting, surprisingly delicious, focusing on natural flavors.
Okay, simple, wholesome, surprisingly delicious. Let's dig into that. What specifics should you look out for?
The absolute icon seems to be Karelian pies, Karjalan piraka. They're these traditional, uniquely shaped pastries. Thin rye crust, usually filled with rice porridge, sometimes mashed potato or carrot. Served warm, typically with a big dollop of egg butter muunavoi, which is just chopped hard-boiled egg and butter. They sound hearty.
Yeah, unique and hearty. A staple you'll find everywhere, apparently. Breakfasts, coffee shops.
Rye bread, rusleip, is another core staple mentioned. It's dark, dense, quite sour, very hearty and nutritious. Different from rye bread you might get elsewhere, seems much heavier, more traditional.
And for something really northern, Lapland specific, reindeer meat comes up.
Right. Described as incredibly lean, flavorful, often served as a stew, pouring caristies with mashed potatoes and lingonberries, or smoked, or lightly seared. A real taste of the Arctic.
And definitely playing on that nature connection. Lots of forest and lake stuff depending on the season. Wild berries, blueberries, lingonberries, that tart red berry used everywhere, and cloudberries, the rarer golden Arctic berry, unique flavor, often in jam. Big in summer and autumn.
Foraged mushrooms, too, like chanterelles, and fish, obviously, from all those lakes. Salmon, pike perch get mentioned a lot. Smoked, grilled, and hearty soups.
Any unique drinks, besides the famous coffee habit?
Ah, yes. Finnish coffee consumption is famously high, one of the highest in the world. But for something uniquely Finnish, well, brace yourself for salmiakki. It's this salty licorice candy, legendary for being polarizing. The sources are clear. You'll either love it passionately or absolutely hate it. No middle ground.
Okay, noted. Approach with caution.
And for something stronger, Koskenkorva is mentioned as a popular, straightforward Finnish vodka, kind of the national spirit.
So pure flavors, hearty staples like the pies and rye bread, reindeer, berries, the infamous salmiakki, lots of coffee, and vodka.
Got it. Now, where do you actually stay when you visit? The sources cover a pretty wide range of options. They do. And they emphasize that while Finland can be pricey, smart accommodation choices can help manage the budget. For budget options, hostels in cities like Helsinki are noted as being good quality, clean, reliable. Dorm beds may be around 35 to 70 US a night. And like we said, wild camping in national parks is totally free thanks to every man's right. Just need to be respectful, leave no trace.
And for a really authentic Finnish experience, especially outside the cities, renting a muki, a traditional cottage, sounds highly recommended.
Definitely. They vary a lot in price and style, maybe from $80 for basic rustic up to over 250 US a night for bigger or modern ones. But they can be great value, especially for groups or families. They almost always have a private sauna, often access to a lake or forest, maybe a rowboat. It's where Finns themselves go to unwind.
Mid-range travelers, what can they expect?
Comfortable, functional hotels, guest houses in cities like Helsinki, Rovaniemi, probably 150 to 300 US a night range. The sources point out many hotels, even at this level, include breakfast and often sauna access. Those are good value perks to consider.
And then, the really interesting stuff that can push the budget up. The luxury and unique options, especially up in Lapland.
That's right. The sources really get into these unique stays designed for specific experiences. We mentioned the glass igloos or cabins for watching the northern lights from your bed. Price on those can range wildly $300 to over 800 US a night, maybe even higher at peak times like Christmas. There are also high-end design hotels in Helsinki, luxury wilderness resorts, and those seasonal, really different stays like ice hotels and snow castles.
An ice hotel, seriously?
Yeah.
How does that work? Do you sleep on actual ice?
Pretty much. Places like the Snow Hotel in Kemi, Lapland, are rebuilt from snow and ice every year. Walls, sculptures, even the bed frames are ice. But don't worry, they give you super warm Arctic sleeping bags and reindeer furs to sleep on. It's less about conventional comfort, more about the unique temporary experience. A basic ice room might start around 200, 300 euros. They often have ice galleries, ice restaurants, even an ice bar with drinks in ice glasses. It's a novelty for sure.
Eating off ice plates, drinking from ice glasses. Okay,
Yeah.
that's definitely unique. So location is clearly a huge price factor. Those Lapland experiences, especially around Aurora season, cost way more. Helsinki's generally pricier than smaller towns, too.
Absolutely. And seasonality is probably the single biggest price driver, especially in Lapland. Prices peak in winter, December to February for the Northern Lights and Santa Rush, and also summer, June, August, down south during holiday time. The sources strongly advise booking those unique places, glass igloos, ice hotels, popular muckies way in advance, like 6 months to a year ahead for peak winter.
Okay, so you figured out where to stay. How do you actually get around this big country? What do the sources say about transport?
Well, Finland has a really well-developed, efficient public transport system, which is great given the distances. Trains, run by the state company VR, are comfy and reliable between major cities. The network goes surprisingly far north, right up to Rovaniemi. That overnight train from Helsinki to Rovaniemi, the Arctic Express or Santa Claus Express, is popular. Saves travel time and a night's accommodation cost. Booking train tickets ahead is definitely recommended by the sources. Prices can be much cheaper.
What about buses?
Long-distance buses are also very comprehensive. They often reach smaller towns trains don't, can be cheaper than trains too, especially if you're flexible. Matkahuolto and Onibus are the main operators mentioned. Onibus in particular is noted for potentially big discounts if you book way ahead online, maybe even 50% off. They might take longer, but cover more ground.
And given the distances, especially south to Lapland,
Domestic flights are often the quickest. Finnair is the main airline. Flights within Finland, especially booked ahead, can sometimes be surprisingly affordable, maybe under 100 euros. Depends on the route and demand, of course. It's often the most practical choice if you're short on time and want to see both Helsinki and Lapland.
and within cities.
Public transport is excellent, especially Helsinki trams, buses, metro, even ferries out to the islands. Super reliable. The sources suggest the Helsinki card could be good value if you plan to use transport a lot and visit multiple sites, as it covers both.
What about renting a car?
Offers the most freedom, definitely, especially for exploring the Lakeland region, remote parks, or staying in a secluded moki. But, the sources warn, rentals are expensive in Finland, and winter driving up north needs real experience with snow and ice. You need special winter tires, it's mandatory. Plus, wildlife on the roads is a real hazard, especially reindeer in Lapland.
And then, like you hinted, up in the Arctic, you have those unique transport methods that are also activities. Reindeer sleighs, husky sleds, snowmobiles.
Exactly, alongside local buses and taxis. Oh, and the guides also mention Finnish cities are very bike-friendly, especially in summer. Good paths, easy rentals.
Right, which brings us neatly to the overall cost. The sources seem pretty upfront about this. Finland is generally seen as expensive. Similar to other Nordic countries like Norway or Denmark, careful budgeting and planning seem absolutely essential.
Yeah, they provide some estimated daily costs, which are helpful benchmarks. For a budget traveler thinking hostels or camping, cooking most meals, using only public transport, focusing on free outdoor stuff like hiking you might manage on, say, 70 to 150 US dollars a day. But they stress that needs strict budgeting, especially cutting back on food costs and alcohol.
And for a mid-range trip,
Maybe staying in decent mid-range hotels or sharing a mucky, mixing cooking with some casual meals out, using public transport, maybe the odd taxi, including a few paid tours or activities like a husky ride or museum. You're probably looking at somewhere in the range of 180 to 400 US dollars a day. More comfort, wider experiences, but not outright luxury.
and luxury. High-end hotels, fine dining, private tours, those glass igloos.
Then costs can easily shoot past $500, maybe even $1,200 plus US dollars a day, especially in Lapland during peak winter for those premium Aurora experiences. That's where costs can really skyrocket.
Okay, so what are the main things that inflate the budget quickly?
The sources pinpoint a few key culprits. Those Arctic activities, husky safaris, reindeer rides, they're amazing, but can be several $100s each. Accommodation in Lapland, especially unique stays. Alcohol, it's significantly more expensive than many other places in Europe due to high taxes. That's a big one. Eating out all the time. And covering long distances quickly with flights if you're moving between the south and north on a tight schedule.
But crucially, they also give really good practical tips for saving money without totally missing out. Number one tip, repeated constantly. Cook your own meals. Hitting the grocery store is way cheaper than restaurants.
Yep. And number two, always carry a reusable water bottle. Tap water is free, safe, excellent quality everywhere. Don't buy bottled water.
Limit alcohol, or only buy it from the state-run alco shops. Still pricey, but cheaper than bars.
Maximize those free outdoor activities thanks to every men's right. Hiking, swimming, exploring forests, core Finnish experiences cost nothing.
Book transport and accommodation way in advance, especially for cheaper train fares or popular Lapland spots.
Traveling in the shoulder seasons, late autumn or spring, might also lower flight and accommodation costs compared to peak winter or summer.
Renting a moki, the cottage, can be cost-effective for groups. Cost per person drops, and you get that authentic experience, usually with a sauna.
The sources also mention slightly more adventurous options like hitchhiking, apparently quite safe and feasible in many areas, and couch surfing in cities for saving on accommodation and meeting locals.
Using free resources like free walking tours in Helsinki is another tip. Good orientation, just remember to tip the guide.
And the Helsinki card, as mentioned, if your plans fit. Ride-sharing apps exist too, mainly within cities.
So yeah, the initial price might look high, but the sources strongly suggest that with smart planning, focusing on core experiences, using these tips, Finland can be accessible for different budgets. You just need to be intentional about spending.
Exactly. It's definitely doable for budget or mid-range travelers. Okay, so that's the practical side. Now, the really crucial question, when should you actually go? The sources are super clear on this. There's no single best time. It completely depends on what you want to experience. The seasons are dramatically different.
That's such a key point. Winter, let's say November to March, that's prime time for those iconic things. Highest chance for northern lights, visiting Santa, classic winter fun like husky sledding, reindeer rides, skiing, snowmobiling. Expect to be very cold, short daylight hours, or even polar night up north, and guaranteed snow. It's also the busiest and most expensive time in Lapland, unsurprisingly.
Spring, maybe April to May, is a big transition. Days get longer fast, snow starts melting, though it can stick around into May up north. Nature wakes up. Good for late season skiing up north, fewer crowds than peak winter. Probably not ideal for strong aurora chances as nights shorten, but it can be beautiful as the country thaws out.
Summer, June to August, that's midnight sun season up north, and peak time for outdoor stuff everywhere else, especially lakes. Expect mild to warm weather, especially down south, maybe 15, 25 degrees CD, 60, 70s F, sometimes warmer. Super long daylight or constant light in the north. Best for hiking, swimming, boating, exploring cities, seeing Finland all green and lush.
This is peak season in southern Finland and the Lakeland, so higher prices and more people there compared to other times.
And then autumn, September, October. Consistently described as surprisingly beautiful, often underrated. You get the stunning Riska, the autumn foliage colors, especially vivid in Lapland.
Temperatures cool, crowds thin out after summer, and importantly, nights get dark enough again, especially September, October, for a good chance of seeing the northern lights before the really deep cold hits. It sounds like a great balance. Potential aurora, beautiful scenery, fewer people.
So the key takeaway on timing is simple but vital. Match your dates to your absolute priority. Want northern lights in Santa? Go winter. Midnight sun and lakes? Summer. Autumn colors, fewer crowds, maybe early aurora. Think September, October.
Yeah, don't expect to do everything in one trip unless you're there for ages and see multiple seasons.
Okay, that covers the practicals, nature, seasons, magic. What about the people? The culture beyond Sauna and Sisu? Any insights from the sources on the Finnish character, how to interact?
They highlight a few key things, sometimes surprising ones. The sauna culture, as we said, is huge, pervasive, deeply ingrained. You'll find it everywhere. The deep love for nature and quiet is another big trait. Finns really seem to value solitude, spending time outdoors year-round. They cherish their national parks. The advice is basically, embrace the tranquility, respect their need for personal space and quiet. Don't expect constant loud chatter in public, like on trains.
They're also known for being honest, direct, punctual. The sources describe Finns as pragmatic, reliable, straightforward, maybe less small talk or superficial pleasantries than some cultures, which could be misinterpreted. But their communication is genuine, their word is good. Don't mistake quietness or directness for being unfriendly. Once you connect, they're often warm and helpful.
And for visitors, communication is usually very easy. The vast majority, especially in cities and younger people, speak excellent English. You generally won't have trouble getting around or interacting in English. That's a big plus.
Finally, the sources consistently paint Finland as highly egalitarian, well-organized, efficient. Expect things to run on time, clean, functional infrastructure, a general sense of order.
Which extends to public transport, services, making travel smoother once you figure out the systems.
And that links to another point the sources are very clear on: safety.
Absolutely. Finland consistently ranks among the world's safest countries. Violent crime is extremely low. You can generally feel very safe walking around cities, even alone at night. Petty crime like pickpocketing is rare, but possible in crowded tourist spots, so standard awareness applies. But overall, the sense of security is huge.
Outdoor safety gets mentioned too, especially if you're heading into the wilderness, particularly in winter.
Right. Respect the weather. It can change fast and be extreme up north. Know your limits with cold or difficult activities. Dress in layers. Carry essentials, water, snacks, map GPS. Tell someone your plans. Ice safety on frozen lakes or sea is also critical. Stick to marked trails or go with local guides.
And that specific warning about reindeer when driving in Lapland seems important.
Very. They roam free, aren't scared of cars, often stand right on the road. Drive cautiously, especially dawn and dusk. Be ready to stop.
But beyond those specific outdoor or driving points, the overall message is clear. Finland is remarkably safe.
And yeah, that high-quality, safe tap water everywhere adds to the sense of well-being, too. No worries there. Knowing the European emergency number 112 is always wise anywhere in Europe, but the sources really paint a picture of a very secure, low-risk place for travelers.
So there you have it, Finland, a country that really does uniquely blend that almost mystical Arctic magic, the raw beauty of its nature, with the deep warmth of its sauna culture and that pragmatic strength of Sisu.
Yeah, it's a place that marries vast, quiet, natural beauty with cutting-edge modern efficiency and design. And while, yes, it often appears on expensive lists and definitely needs a thoughtful budget and good planning, our deep dive into these sources really shows that by understanding its core, using smart strategies, applying those money-saving tips, you can absolutely explore Finland. You can discover firsthand why its unique mix of peace, innovation, strong culture, and genuine happiness makes it so captivating. It really offers a kind of northern magic you won't find elsewhere.
So after digging into all this, from reindeer rides to the price of salty licorice, what stands out most to you, the listener? Are you actually planning a trip? Or has this deep dive just sparked maybe a new curiosity about this incredible, maybe slightly mysterious country?
And it does bring up that interesting question the sources touch on, right? Finland's consistently ranked the happiest country. And they link it not just to society structures, but cultural things like Sisu, that quiet resilience, the deep connection to nature, the communal sauna ritual.
In a world that's often so focused on, external achievements, being constantly connected, getting more stuff, could Finland's focus on inner strength, resilience, that fundamental link to nature, simple shared rituals like the sauna, offer some wider lessons? Lessons on what actually contributes to a lasting sense of well-being, contentment, community.
Could exploring this unique place, immersing yourself in its quiet strength, experiencing that deep respect for the land and people, could it give you a unique perspective, maybe on how resilience and peace can actually feed each other, even in challenging environments or quiet moments? It's definitely something to think about long after we finish talking here.
What's the one thing you're most excited about potentially seeing or doing in Finland after hearing all this? Is it chasing the aurora? Experiencing a real Finnish sauna? Maybe even the cold dip? We're trying to understand that Sisu concept firsthand.
Keep digging into the sources you provided, or maybe look for more info based on what sparked your interest today. There's always more to uncover.
Well, that wraps up this deep dive into Finland.